A very good morning to all. Welcome to the Institute of Biochemistry, Molecular Biology and Biotechnology of the University of Colombo and the inauguration of the 12th Annual Scientific Sessions, as well as the Professor Stanley Wijesundara Memorial Lecture. To begin the proceedings as per traditions, we will first gather in singing the national anthem together.
Sri Lanka Mata, Upper Sri Lanka, Namo 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 Mata, Sundara Sri Dharini, Surani Ati Sobhamana Lanka, Ranya Ganaya Nekamal Valatulu Piri Jaya Bhumiya Ranya, Apamata Sapa Siri Seta Sadhana, Jeevanaye Mata, Viliganu Mena Apabhakti Puja, Namo Namo Mata, Upper Sri Lanka, Namo 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 Mata, Obave Apavidya, Obamaya Apasatya, Obave Apashanti, Apahada Tulabhanti, Oba Apa Aloke, Apage Anuprane, Oba Apa Jeevanave, Apa Muktiya Obave, Nava Jeevana Devini, Nikhila Apa Kubudu Karan Mata, Jnana Veeda Vadavamina Ragena Yanu Mena Jaya Bhumikara, Ekamavakage Daru Kalavedina, Yamu Yamu Vinopama, Prema Vada Samaveda Durara, Namo Namo Mata, Upper Sri Lanka, Namo 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 Mata.
As per tradition, we will have the lighting of the traditional oil lamp. We would like to invite the chief guest for today, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo, Senior Professor H.D. Karunaratne, Director of IBMBB, Professor Prasanna Galhena, Professor Stanley Wijesundara Memorial Lecturer, Professor Rohan Siriwardana, representing the family of Professor Stanley Wijesundara, Mr. Shalitha Wijesundara, former directors of IBMBB, Professor Kamani Tennakon, and Professor Rizvi Sharif, and Professor Tara D. Silva, Chairperson of the Organizing Committee for the 12th Annual Scientific Sessions, Professor Nimal Punyasiri, Co-Secretary of the Organizing Committee, Dr. Ruwandi Ranasinghe, Senior Assistant Registrar of IBMBB, Ms. K.G. Udayangani, Vidya Jyoti, Professor Vajra Disanayaka, Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, a student representative of IBMBB, and representing all staff of IBMBB, Mr. Kanchana Senanayaka, representing all academic staff of IBMBB, Professor Jagat Veerasena and Professor Sisira Pathirana. We welcome you for the lighting of the traditional oil lamp. Thank you, everyone. We now welcome the director of IBMBB, Professor Prasanna Galhena, to deliver the welcome address.
Very good morning to you all. Senior Professor, Professor H.D. Karunaratne, Vice Chancellor, University of Colombo. Senior Professor, Professor Wijesundara, Dean, Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo. Professor Rohan Siriwardana, Professor in Surgery, Faculty of Medicine, University of California. Today's Professor Stanley Wijesundara Memorial Lecturer. Emeritus Professor Kamani Tennapon, Professor Shiroma Handunetti, Professor Tara De Silva, and Professor Rizvi Sharif, the former directors of the IBMBB. Professor Nalin De Silva, Head of the Department of Chemistry, Faculty of Science, University of Colombo. Professor Sirma Premakumara, Faculty of Nursing, University of Colombo. Professor Dilip De Silva, and members of late Professor Wijesundara family. Professor Heva Vasanthi, the Dean, Faculty of Medicine, University of California. Distinguished invitees, academic support, administrative and non-academic staff of the IBMB, and my dear students. It's a great privilege to welcome you all to the 12th annual research session and the Professor Stanley Wijesundara Memorial Lecture, which are two important events of the IBMB. I take this opportunity to thank Professor Siriwardana, an eminent academic and caring clinician, for accepting our invitation in sharing his expertise and experience in the emerging field of liver transplantation at Sri Lankan scenario. Further, it's a great privilege to have members of Professor Wijesundara family with us today to grace this event, and would like to acknowledge their support in hosting Professor Stanley Wijesundara's memorial lecture annually. Late Professor Wijesundara, former Vice Chancellor, University of Colombo, was the visionary in establishing the discipline of molecular biology in Sri Lanka, with immense support extended by our founder, director, Professor Eric Karunayaka, to implement the programs. It started at the Department of Biochemistry, Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo, to which both of them belonged, and later accumulated at the IBMB, as the IBMB. Vice Chancellor, sir, kindly permit me to brief you the establishment and the current progress of the IBMBB. IBMBB was established in 2004 with the funding through the Swedish government on a bilateral agreement with Sri Lankan government in uplifting postgraduate teaching in the region. The involvement of the IBMBB was immense and currently recognized as only institute in Sri Lanka enrolling scholars in the field of science through the Commonwealth Scholarship Program. We were successful in conducting our 3 master's program despite the challenges due to COVID, pandemic, and economic instability in the country. We are proud to hear the success stories of our alumni with their academic and career achievements. One of our Commonwealth scholars was the live wire behind the establishment of University of Colombo International Alumni for the first time in the university's history. Vice Chancellor, sir, the IBB has contributed significantly to the university's ranking by publishing 30 manuscripts in Index Journal in the year 2022, and we are looking forward to similar contribution during the current year as well. We were able to secure a few competitive grants from NRC, and such grants are being utilized in achieving commercially viable goals and to empower human resources by facilitating postgraduate studies of young academics currently attached to the state-owned HEIs. I'm proud to keep a note that we have immensely contributed to empowering human resources within the university system, and today we have our alumni in most of the universities in the country. In the past couple of years, we consolidated our presence in the industry, enabling us to launch few products in the line of cosmetics and nutraceuticals. I'm proud to update you all that our latest value-added product targeting the export market will be launched in the month of July this year. Lastly, I'm happy to update you that we have already partnered with IIT Madras, VIT Vellore, in launching our first undergraduate program, Bachelor's in Molecular Biology and Biotechnology. It's a 3-year program, goes as an external bachelor's, which will be focusing on the global industry needs. Further, we were successful in coming into an agreement with the University of Northumbria and the University of Deakin as a partners institute in launch 2 master's programs. So all these miracles happen with the dedicated 8 academics with us, well supported by my young, energetic academic support, administrative, and the non-academic staff. Dear sir, there's a reason of elaborating on these highlights to make a justification for securing our salaries from the National Treasury Board. As you all know, we are heading for a difficult time with the restricted funding. overnight decision in restricting government finances on salaries and other recurrent expenditure have a direct impact on the sustainability of this hard-earned facility, thus possibly resulting in several missing opportunities. So this is a high time in having a critical cost and benefit audit and present our case to relevant authorities in a sensible manner. With that remark, let me welcome you all to this special occasion and look forward your active support in sustaining this national asset. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We now invite Senior Professor H.D. Karunaratne, Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo, to address the gathering.
Very good morning to all. Professor Prasanna Galhena, Director, IBMBB. All other distinguished invitees, especially particularly our emeritus professors, Professor Rizvi Zarif and Professor Kamani Telecon. Keynote speaker today, particularly, is going to deliver the Professor Stanley Wijesundara Memorial Lecture. And the members of the Professor Wijesundara family, it gives me great pleasure today to address you when you are celebrating 12th annual scientific sessions in the IBMBB, which means 12 years you might have consecutively conducted these sessions. I should congratulate for those who presented papers and those who have done research and presenting their arguments and their findings today in this 12th annual scientific sessions. I think this year, this is the first, I think, research conference I am participating. Last year, we had 19 research conferences in University of Colombo. University of Colombo is now, as you are aware, it becomes day by day larger. We have 42,000 learning partners, including the 16,000 undergraduate students and 11,000 postgraduate students. And very recently, as he pointed out, we have established, first time in Sri Lankan university history, the International Student Association of University of Colombo. We have about now 154 international students, both in undergraduate and postgraduate. So our target is to go for more international students coming to the University of Colombo. So that is, you know that, of course, we all are passing a very difficult time period as economic crisis heading still. So there are many limitations, salary cut, or there are many, university governing is very challenging today. There are many problems every day morning I'm getting. Those are not the unusual things coming. So, but we have to survive. In that case, we have taken many steps to diversify our income sources rather than rely on treasury. So actually, we know in foreign countries, basically, when there is an institute, they bring more research funding from locally and globally. So the research funding is very essential to survive IBMBB in future, that we need to write more research proposals and bring international research funding programs, as well as particularly the foreign students and new programs. We know the entire university education system is changing today. More digitalization, the diversification of financing. There are many things happening. So in that special situation, we have to survive somehow and we have to fight for somehow. But I think in this line, Professor Wijesundara is a good example for a University of Colombo. He has done a marvelous job upgrading the University of Colombo. I have very recently found that his handwriting, how he explained the Vice Chancellor Fund to be established and how the Vice Chancellor Fund should be. Very recently, I found that actually he himself has donated money from his wallet to start the Vice Chancellor Fund of the University of Colombo. So, and he was very much friendly with students, and we know that everyone, how he governed the University of Colombo. So it's a great pleasure to conduct you this kind of oration. together your 12th session of scientific sessions in IBMBB. So actually, we should thank for the family members who attended for this event, and you have found a very good speaker today in the area of the same research. It's a great thing. I know that the IBMBB has only limited number of staff members. They are doing their level best. Anyway, we all have to get together and hard work in this very difficult time period. So while congratulating all speakers today, and of course remembering our great leader, Professor Stanley Wijesundara, let me stop my few words. Thank you very much for meeting you in this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We would now like to invite Mr. Shalita Wijesundara to address the gathering on behalf of the family of late Professor Stanley Wijesundara.
Colombo University Vice Chancellor, Senior Professor H.D. Karunaratne, Director IBMBB Professor Musanna Galhena, Emeritus Professor Community Telephone and Rizvi Sharifdeen, Chairman ITI Professor Sirimal Kumar, Memorial Lecture Professor Rohan Siriwardana, relevant professors and students of the university, and IBMBB staff and students. Members, especially Sanjita Atigala, former Secretary of Finance, media personnel, and well-wishers. This year is Professor Wijesundara's 100th birthday centennial. 34 years after his tragic demise, 19 years after establishing the IBMBB, and the 12th successive memorial lecture held in his name. We are fortunate to have a Vice Chancellor who has continued Professor Wijesundara's legacy of introducing, at that time, cutting-edge subjects as Acting Director of Studies and the coordinator for MBA, MBBS, MDS, and PGDM programs during 2000 and 2015. With these influential Japanese connections, he was invited as professor at the University of Tokyo and is making use of such connections in other areas to bring back the university to its preeminence in the world. One of Vice Chancellor Wijesundara's vision for Colombo University was to identify strategic and globally important subjects such as IT and biotechnology and molecular biology to cut the red tape and establish institutes such as ICT under the late Professor V.K. Samaranaika and IBMBB under Professor Eric Karunaratne, as present Vice Chancellor Senior Professor Karunaratne mentioned. I remember he used to say that under the faculty system, it takes months to receive even a paperclip. I'm sure all researchers will understand. Even to get some chemicals today, it still would take more than 2-3 weeks on the faculty system. So we have a system in place, the institute, to shortcut all these issues. I also welcome my brother is here, Professor Dr. Rohan Siriwardana and his wife. I was expecting him to be in India today, but he made it. So, the IBMBB was the first to be set up under Sri Lanka Swedish government, as the Vice Chancellor mentioned, agreement. It is also unique because it has critical mass and is the only institute in Sri Lanka that can produce postgraduate qualified experts in biotechnology and molecular biology. It also continuously has a Commonwealth funded scholarship every year. Also, ITA Chairman Professor Srimal Siriwardana will vouch for our natural resources, how the natural resources of this country are being depleted. He once mentioned last week how Nobel laureate Professor Ada Jonathan research in Sri Lanka, I think in Pneumonia, and marketed the product in Japan, because Karunaratna might be more interested, under the name of sedamycin, which is a Sri Lankan product which now has been sold to Japan. If the IMBB is strengthened, Vice Chancellor, we can stop this loss of our natural resources. Today, there are trending subjects such as AI, which are getting worldwide prominence. But I think we should also remember that the Third World War might not be a nuclear war. It'll be a biological war. And this institute is the main and the only institute in Sri Lanka that is ready for that kind of technology to take this forward. I think although AI has got prominence, molecular biology has got lesser prominence. And the contribution of IBMBB is also less. IBMBB has enabled Sri Lanka in its expertise to quickly resolve the COVID endemic by using PCR methods. This is probably not acknowledged in Sri Lanka. Very few people know the role IBMBB has done in getting us out of this mess we had for the last few years. Actually, the mess we have today, more than half would be contributed to COVID-19. Since the chief of WHO has on 24th of this month, May, warned the world to prepare for this disease more deadly than the said COVID disaster, in the view of Professor Wijesundara's family, we should strengthen this. I think we should all get together to help this IBMBB to achieve this mission. We, the family, are thankful to IBMBB staff and Vice Chancellor for sustaining this institute for 19 years, which is a great task, and especially to have continued these sessions in his name for over 12 years. A word of appreciation for Professor Rohan Siriwardana. I personally had the privilege of trying to contact him to save one life, but unfortunately it was too late. My sister's second in command, Rajita, wanted to go to for his services, and we have made an appointment at 5 o'clock, but by 12 was dead. So Professor Asita Silva tried to make the arrangement. So he's actually a human person, and the family is very grateful to have this opportunity for him to address this memorial lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wijesundara. We would now like to invite to the head table the Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo, Senior Professor H.D. Karunaratna, Director of IBMBB, Professor Prasanna Galhena, our guest lecturer for today, Professor Rohan Siriwardana, and Professor Nimal Punyasiri, the Chairperson of the Organizing Committee for the Scientific Sessions. We invite Professor Nimal Punyasiri to deliver the citation and to introduce to us the lecturer.
Ayubowan, and good morning to all of you. Vice Chancellor Sir, distinguished academics, and all other invited guests. Although not present in the audience today, I wish to express our profound gratitude to Emeritus Professor Eric Karunanayake, a brilliant biochemist like Professor Wijesundara, for creating a magnanimous institute, the IBMBB, the one and only in this part of the world. It is a great honor for me to introduce Professor Stanley Wijesundara, Memorial Lecturer today. Professor Rohan Siriwardana, Professor in Gastroenterological and Hepatobiliary Surgery, Faculty of Medicine, University of California. He is a product of our own university. Professor Siriwardana graduated with second-class honors in MBBS from Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo in 2002. He's very young. He obtained the MS in surgery from the same university where he obtained Dr. P.R. Anthony's gold medal, achieving all island rank #1 in 2009. 2010 and 2011, he received prestigious GB Ong Fellowship in Hepatobiliary and Liver Transplant Surgery at the Department of Surgery, University of Hong Kong. He is a member of the Royal Society of Surgeons. There is a long list of accolades received by Professor Siriwardana. I wish to cite them all, especially to inspire young scientists and student community attendance in the adjoining hall. Professor Siriwardana has delivered invited orations, which included Gold Medal Oration, Sri Lanka Medical Association, R.A. Navaratna Oration 2012, R.L. Spittle Oration 2018. He was selected and held following position: Secretary College of Surgeons of Sri Lanka 2015, Council Member of Surgeons, College of Surgeons of Sri Lanka 2014, Secretary Hepatopancreatico Biliary Association of Sri Lanka 2013, Member Board of Studies GI Surgery and Critical Care Medicine, Member Working Group on Organ Transplant, Ministry of Health in Sri Lanka, Member Editorial Board, Sri Lanka Journal of Surgery, Member National Transplant Advisory Board, President Sri Lanka Society of Gastroenterology 2022, Member of National Transplant Advisory Council 21, 22, and 23. He has delivered over 50 invited lectures in both local and international fora. In addition, he has also received a number of awards for his research. President's Award for Research Publication 2010, 16, and 17. Young Investigator Award, APASA Liver Week, Singapore in 2013. Vice Chancellor's Award for 16 and 15, and also Senate Award for 2015. Many awards for best paper, research paper in local fora. He has published over 75 peer-reviewed publications. Then the patents, inventions, and new techniques. 2 patents for new inventions and a new technique of suprapubic cystectomy. Let us move to the highlight of the citation, the pinnacle of his career as a surgeon and as an innovative academic. The first living donor transplantation in Sri Lanka in 2013, a first liver transplantation in a child in Sri Lanka in 2020. And finally, the establishment of the Colombo North Center for Liver Disease, performing highest liver transplants in Sri Lanka and training new surgeons. So we know from this long list of accolades, we have an erudite personality to deliver the Professor Stanley Wijesundara Memorial Lecture. In addition, I'd like to beg your pardon. I hope I have pronounced this surgical jargon or terminology correctly. So all these words will become very clear to you after listening to the Professor Siriwardana. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Nima Punyasiri. We would like to invite the Dean, Faculty of Medicine, Vidya Jyoti, Professor Vajra Disanayaka, to present the Professor Stanley Wijesundara Memorial Lecture Medal to Professor Rohan Siriwardana.
Thank you for that kind introduction. Very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Prof. H.D. Karunaratne, the Senior Professor and the Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo, and Professor Prasanna Galhena, the Director, IBMBB, and Prof. Wijesundara, the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo, and distinguished invitees, family members of late Professor Wijesundara, and my fellow colleagues and friends. It gives me a great honor to stand in front of you and deliver this talk in memory of one of the great Sri Lankan sons of the Stanley Wijesundara. Stanley Wijesundara was born in 1923 in Kandy, and he studied in both Dharmaraja and Trinity colleges. After completing his primary education, he entered the University of Colombo, University of Ceylon at that time, and where he studied chemistry, and he acquired his primary degree with first-class honors. Then later on, he moved on to UK, to University of Oxford, where he completed his PhD, and he came back to Sri Lanka in 1947, and he entered and joined University of Ceylon to the Department of Biochemistry, Faculty of Medicine. And slowly, during the next few years, he rose along his ladder, and in 1977, he became the head of the department and the chair professor of the Department of Biochemistry. In the same year, the University Act was passed in the Parliament, and Sri Lanka University of Colombo was established as an independent institution, and he was appointed as the first Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo. After that, he was re-elected twice, and he held this position until 1988, where he retired. In 1989, his life was taken back in a tragic event. Professor Wijesundara was a dreamer and achiever of his dreams. When he took over the University of Ceylon, it was a modest university, but he changed the face of the university, one of the best in the region and best in the country. And he was a dreamer and achiever of his dreams. And today, during next 30 minutes, I'll try to take you through a different dream. A dream of liver transplantation in Sri Lanka, a surgeon's perspective. Now, for most of you who do not know about the liver is the largest organ in our body. It is like a busy port. Whatever that we eat and drink will go through the liver, and it will be processed by the liver. And some of these food items will be repacked and distributed around the body to be utilized by other organs. Sometimes some of these nutrients are packed and stored in the liver to be used in different occasions. And sometimes when it is toxic, when it is not wanted, and it is excreted by the liver. For a surgeon, liver is one of the most feared organs. Liver is like a sponge packed with blood, hidden under the rib cage. If you are not properly trained to handle the liver, if you start operating liver, very soon surgeon will find that he is swimming in a pool of blood. That's the kind of organ that liver is. Even though liver has many functions, it can go down. It can go suddenly, which is called acute liver failure. When it goes down suddenly to fatal levels, some of the patients might recover, but some of the patients will not recover, and they might succumb to that. But more commonly, liver functions can go down gradually, what we call chronic liver cell disease or cirrhosis. If you see a patient like this, we realize what real suffering is. Their body starts swelling up, their bellies will start to swell up, water getting collected in their body, they start vomiting blood, they can't eat or drink, they get confused, and eventually it becomes a slow death to the patient as well as a suffering to the family. Now, if you take kidney, for kidney failure, there is dialysis to sustain life. Even if the lungs fail, there are machines to sustain life. But once the liver fails, so far, no one has invented the machine to sustain life after liver failure. So for me, liver was just another organ like most of the registrars until I was doing my third year surgical residency. When I was doing my appointment in Lady Reggie Hospital, one day when I was walking in the ward, I saw this mother and child with a very sad face in the corner of the ward. Just for the curiosity, I went and had a chat with them. They were from a far away place from Monaragal. I still remember the child's face. And child was having end-stage liver disease. His liver was failing. He has a belly, pot belly, yellow eyes. He was dying. And the mother was told that she needed a liver transplantation, but liver transplantation was not possible at that time in Sri Lanka. So they were asked to go to India, which cost about 15 million rupees, and this was not something achievable to this family. So I always want to do new things different to others. And that day I thought this is something that I should do, and I should change this and start liver transplantation in this country. So that is how I developed my interest in liver transplant. I was so interested, but I did not know how to do it. I started self-practicing, reading about liver transplants. Those days, unlike now, my wife had long hair. I knew that I had to practice to do suture with fine sutures. I used to pluck her hair, sometimes take hair from her comb, and practicing fine suturing and tying knots with the hair. And I started using suturing saline tubes to practice suturing blood vessels. But this was all haphazard. But one day, Professor Aloka Patina said that Ragam is interested in starting liver transplantation, to go and meet Professor Kemaldi and Professor Janaka de Silva. And that's how I met Professor Janaka de Silva. And he took me to Ragama. That's the start of my career at liver transplantation at Ragama. But finding jobs in liver transplantation was very difficult at that time because I have never seen liver transplantation. For you to do a demanding job, you should have some training. So it was very difficult to find a job in a place training start for transplantation. But luckily, I had one of my close family relatives, Professor Lakshman Samaranayake, who was a dean at the University of Hong Kong at that time. Through him, I was able to secure a fellowship at University of Hong Kong, Queen Mary Hospital, a place which have pioneered living donor liver transplantation. They have done many innovations in the field. And I was able to meet top guys in the world in liver transplantation and work with them. Now, for you who have not seen a surgical video before, this may be a little disturbing, but I think no talk by a surgeon will be complete without a video of a surgery. So liver transplantation, I saw it for the first time when I went to Hong Kong. It is a long surgery. It takes about 15-20 hours. And even in the best of the hands in the world, it's a demanding surgery. And for me, I was always mesmerized by this surgery. I never got tired assisting and following a liver transplantation. Basically, liver transplantation has 4 important steps. Liver transplantation has 4 important steps. The first step is to remove the native liver or diseased liver from the patient. And once the native liver is removed from the patient, you take the liver that needs to be implanted into the patient and join up. The first join up is the hepatic vein or the vein that takes blood out from the liver. And then we join up the vein that takes blood into the liver or the portal vein. And after completing that, liver is reperfused or the blood is given back to the liver. And then we start the hepatic artery anastomosis, one of the most difficult anastomosis to perform because it is tiny, especially in pediatric liver transplantations, a few millimeters in size. And once that is completed, then we complete the final anastomosis or the bile duct anastomosis. My boss or my teacher used to say, liver transplantation has 100 steps. In each 100 steps, you have to perform the same sequence, same thing each and every time that you are doing a liver transplantation. And this is the man who did the first liver transplantation in the world, Thomas Tarsal. That was in 1967. And in Sri Lanka, the first liver transplantation was performed in 2011 by Professor Mandika Wijesundara. That was almost half a century after doing the first liver transplantation. Even at that time, around the world, more than 3,000 liver transplants happened. We were almost 50 years behind the rest of the world, at least as far as transplantation is considered. So when I came back, I realized why it was difficult. Our infrastructure was very basic. Theaters that we worked with, most of the time we did not have ACs. We had to work under the pedestal fans. And this is a common sighting in front of our ICU. Usually dogs used to walk around, and this is a common sighting around our ICU. So it was like very difficult to perform liver transplant, this kind of background. But in November 2011, we did the first liver transplantation at Ragama, second in the country. And everyone contributed for this transplant. It was like a social event. Even the people who have never seen a transplantation used to come and help us hang around. Some of my surgical department colleagues used to come to the surgery with a loaf of bread and a bottle of Cinnamon just to help us, even though they did not have any experience in transplantation. But looking back, I think it was very lucky for this patient to be alive after the transplantation, thinking about the kind of facilities that he had at that time. There are two ways of getting livers for transplantation. The traditional way is sometimes you find patients coming with severe head injuries, where their head has a major injuries and the brain dies. From the point of the brain death, there are about 3-4 days until the death of the heart or the heart stops. And during this window period, we can harvest their organs, which we call deceased donor transplantation. This is a kind of liver that we have harvested from a deceased donor or dead donor. But there's another way of harvesting livers. If you look at this picture on the top, you can see this mother and the child. The mother has donated part of her liver to the child, and they are meeting for the first time after the surgery. And this is a monk who is awaiting to transplant part of his liver. And this is a child who has undergone transplantation. Another monk has donated, and he's blessing the child. So there's another way of getting an organ or liver for transplantation. You can split this sponge of blood into two and take part of the liver for implantation. So that is called living donor liver transplantation. A liver has excellent ability to regenerate. If you look at this picture, the area that is circled is the left lobe of the liver. Now in this patient, the right lobe of the liver was removed. And this is what happens after about 2 weeks. The CT scan was taken 2 weeks afterwards, and you can see the amount of regeneration, the growth that has happened in the part that is left behind. So using this principle, liver can be harvested for transplantation. But it is a technically demanding surgery, one of the most difficult operations to perform in the world, to split this most difficult organ into 2 parts and take 1 part safely to another patient. This needs a lot of experience, a lot of training, and most importantly, you need a lot of infrastructure, which we did not have anything at that time. You need all sophisticated machines and equipment for this surgery. But luckily, at that time, Professor Lal Chandrasena, who was an employee of the University of Kelaniya, had close links with Navaloka Hospital. Through him, we negotiated with Navaloka Hospital, and they agreed to sponsor the liver transplantation free of charge and to look after this patient before and after the surgery. And that's how we got our eyes on the first living donor liver transplantation in Sri Lanka. In our team, no one has seen liver transplantation done, a live donor liver transplantation before. So we practiced this surgery over and over again using videos. Each and every step was rehearsed and practiced. In October, we performed the first living donor liver transplantation in Sri Lanka. That took headlines. And we performed several other liver transplants. And we wanted to expand our boundaries and perform a pediatric liver transplantation a few months later. But after 18 hours of surgery, patient passed away, and it was a major blow to all of us, all of our team members. And then we had another major hit. Few of our team members left the country. They were frustrated with the system that they had and the infrastructure they had in the country. And this brain drain has been a problem for us Sri Lankans for many years. It happened in 70s. This is a publication in Economic Review. For 3 years, 71, 72, 73, almost 500 doctors left the country. Consider the amount of doctors that were there at that time in Sri Lanka. This is a massive influx. The same thing happened in 90s, and still it is happening. People go out. Looking back, thinking about it, I think it is a system that we have. We have one of the best systems to educate in especially even if you consider around the world, we have one of the best systems to get educated. If you're really keen, if you're really interested, you can put your feet together and study and come to the top. You can achieve the best out in the education. But once you achieve that, you get wings. And when you look back and you find that everything around you has not developed up to the standard of your education. The infrastructure, the facilities that you have is not developed up to the standard. And that people leave because of this discrepancy. Now, Professor Wijesundara was a Sri Lankan to the core. He taught the people around him, his subordinates, the importance of education, even the people who worked under him, and encouraged them to educate their children. And I would like to bring your attention to this paper cutting. It's a paper interview that was given by Lakshmi Wijesundara, the daughter of Professor Wijesundara. And the interviewer asks, what would you want your legacy to be? And she replies and says, she doesn't say that I want this to be the best industry or best business in the region. I want to make the best profits. But she says, my current aim is to prove to myself that Sri Lankan innovations in IT can be world class. And that is the kind of thinking that Professor Wijesundara cultivated around him. And I thank my parents for planting me in Sri Lanka and teaching me to love its people and its country. The next few years for us, it was stabilization and consolidate on what we have started and building up a team that is sustainable. In 2020, we performed the 50th liver transplant. For me, it was a personal achievement. After 10 years of struggle, we were able to perform the first pediatric liver transplantation in the country. It was a major achievement and it made headlines at that time. And we went on to achieve many milestones. We performed the first liver transplantation for acute liver failure in a child and adult, one of the most difficult liver transplants to perform in an emergency situation. And we performed the first ABO incompatible and we performed transplantation less than 1 year of age. And all these are major achievements. And especially when the liver transplantation is one of the surgeries that cannot be performed by all. Among the medical fraternity, if you do a liver transplantation, it gives a lot of recognition and a lot of credibility, and that can corrupt you. And I've seen many transplant programs starting in Sri Lanka with this kind of power that you get and the recognition you get, the teams collapse and the transplantation collapses. But in Sri Lanka, situation is different. But if you look around the world, everywhere the transplantation depends on the surgeon. If you look at India, South India, Professor Mohammad Rila is the leading or one of the best transplant surgeons in the world, but everything revolves around him. Similarly, in Japan, Professor Kasahara, the surgeon, everything depends on him. But in our philosophy of a team is different. We have built up our team with a different philosophy. Each one of our members are individuals. They have developed individually around the transplantation. For example, my long-term colleague and our anesthetist, Dr. Bhagya Gunathilaka, he has done so much in anesthesia, liver transplant anesthesia, and he's developed in his field, and he's the best in the country right now. Professor Madhunil Niriyala, my hepatology colleague, he looks after our patients with liver disease. He's the top in the country, and he has developed himself around the field of transplantation. Likewise, all our members are individuals who have developed separately. And together, we have performed 74 liver transplants, highest in the country. And this is what liver transplantation can do to a patient. Now, this is when we looked at the quality of life after liver transplantation. There are different questionnaires that you can use to check how they perform, how they behave after transplantation. We looked at the patients who were transplanted, and then we looked at the sick patients, and of course, we looked at the patients who are like you and me, who are healthy individuals. Obviously, ones who were transplanted, they were doing much better than the sick patient. That's obvious expectation. But when you look at the healthy individuals, the patients who were transplanted were feeling much better than you and me. That is because they came from hell to heaven. Their life was changed so much. They were feeling much better when they completed their transplantation. Now, what you see on the left-hand side is a healthy liver. What you see on the right-hand side, this liver is a fatty liver. I'm sure if we do ultrasound scan in all of you, at least half of your livers will be like this, a fatty liver. Now, fatty liver is extremely common in our country. The problem with fatty liver is, initial stages, it is harmless, but small percentage of these patients can progress into develop liver fibrosis, and eventually some of them will progress into develop liver cirrhosis. And it is predicted in the very near future, we'll be seeing almost 1 million to 1.5 million patients with liver damage walking among us. And we have seen that happening in our patients. Our wards are getting flooded. Our clinics are getting flooded with patients with end-stage liver disease and cirrhosis. And we are seeing that. And we are seeing large number of patients coming to our clinics with liver cirrhosis. But the number of transplants that we perform is very modest. And there are reasons for that. A liver transplantation is a long surgery. It takes about 8 to 10 hours to complete a surgery. And we do not have a dedicated theater. Most of the time we operate in the night when the theaters are not vacant. Or else we have to wait until the theaters are vacant because we do not have a dedicated or separate place for liver transplantation. An ICU stay sometimes can be weeks and weeks until one patient is taken out from the ICU. We do not have the opportunity or facility to perform another transplantation. And these patients are managed in general wards with all the infected patients. And infections are very common. Almost 100% of our patients end up with infections. Around the world, outcome of liver transplantation should be around 95%. whereas our outcomes are around 70%. And we wanted to change this, and this is the bottleneck in our practice. I'm sure you would have seen advertisements in social media and public media like this, begging for money to take patients out of the country for liver transplantation. It is extremely costly. Right now, even in the cheapest place, it's about 15 million rupees. But most of our patients, most of our families, this is not something thinkable. So we wanted to change this, and we wanted to take this bottleneck out and offer transplantation to each and every patient that comes to us. With that ambition, we started a project to establish a center, a dedicated center for liver disease and transplantation. After the necessary approvals, we got a treasury grant to start the project. And I should thank Professor Mr. S.R. Article for supporting and guiding us on this. And we started our construction in 2020, a separate center for liver disease and transplantation. Hopefully things will be, we thought things will change with this. But then came the disasters. First came the COVID crisis, then the economic crisis and the political crisis. And eventually funds dried up and everything came into a standstill. And we were wondering how to overcome this. We were thinking how to complete this project. I really love this verse from Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. He says, when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. I would like to add another phrase, if your intentions are good. Accidentally we met Mr. M. H. Choma. And he was so convinced, and he understood the importance of this project. And he took over the construction and completion of the project single-handedly. Probably one of the highest donations that was given to a university by a local philanthropist. And today it is under construction, and very soon this will be completed. These are the kind of patients that we transplant. This family, this child underwent transplantation. They are from a very poor background from Balangoda. In another country, I think a family like this, transplantation is unthinkable. But for a family like this, it's very important to make them up to the transplantation and look after these patients after transplantation. It's not just stitching the liver and fishing it off. And we felt the need for this, and we established a fund to support these patients after the transplantation with the help of Sri Lankan experts, some of the non-governmental organizations, certain individuals and companies. And today, we are helping these patients look after their livers even after transplantation. And we have generated or inculcated the culture of liver transplant in Ragama. Our medical students, in the early part of their career, they see and they feel and they learn the importance or the value of transplantation. And they select their future academic areas in liver transplantation. And these are some of my trainees right at the top. Even though they look much older than me, they are my trainees. And some of them, they have started their own transplant programs now. We are training our next generation. And we have helped other institutions. We have helped Colombo to start liver transplant. We have helped Peradeniya to start liver transplantation. That is what we have done up to now. So what have I learned during the journey of liver transplant? I think Sri Lankan team dynamics are different. For a sustainable team, equal share should be given to each and every team member. I think when intentions are pure, there is always help. I don't know whether this is related to the transplantation, but I strongly believe that free education should be coupled with teaching to love the country and its people. Liver transplantation is in Sri Lanka's job beyond the table and the computer desk. Professor Wijesundara, as I mentioned earlier, was a dreamer and achiever. When he took over the Colombo University of Ceylon, or the University of Colombo, it was very modest. During his period, he changed the face of the university to make it one of the best universities in the region and in the country. He's done so much to the university. But in the very same university, it took only a few minutes and few grams of metal in a crooked hand to take his life back. But reading about his story, I started thinking, is it worth what we are doing? I also like this verse again from Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. He says, no matter what he does, every person on earth plays a central role in the history of the world. Thinking deeply, I think all of us have played our roles. People like Prof. Wijesundara has played a major role, but all of us have played our part. I don't know what is ahead for liver transplantation in the future, but I'm certain, I'm sure that we have laid the foundation, cleared the path for a better future in liver transplantation in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Rohan Siriwardana, for that engaging talk. I think everyone had something to learn. The scientist, I think even the management, or everybody had something in that. So thank you very much for that interesting talk. Are there any questions from the audience? Just like to check that before we move on. Okay. We would now like to invite the Secretary of the Organizing Committee for the 12th Annual Scientific Sessions, Dr. Rohan Siriwardana, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good morning to all. On behalf of Organizing Committee, it is my utmost privilege and honor to stand before you today to deliver the vote of thanks at these remarkable annual scientific sessions. We are truly honored to have such esteemed invitees and special guests among us. Your presence here today is testament to your commitment to our shared vision of progress. We would like to extend a special word of appreciation to our orator, Professor Stanley Wijesundara Memorial Lecturer, Professor Rohan Siriwardana, for gracing us with his presence. Your accomplishments and contributions in gastroenterology are exemplary, and we are honored to have you here today. Your inspiring words and presence have motivated us to strive for excellence and continue making a positive impact in our respective endeavors. We are also deeply grateful to all family members of the late Professor Stanley Wijesundara and their generous contribution towards the felicitation of orator. Thank you, sirs and madams. I would like to extend my sincere appreciations to our present director, Professor Prasanna Galhena, founder director, Emeritus Professor Eric Karanayaka, and all the past directors for their contribution towards the IBMBB. Our heartfelt thanks goes to our generous sponsors whose support has been instrumental in making this event possible. Your contributions have facilitated the smooth execution of this session. I would also like to acknowledge the unwavering support of our members, all the academic, executive, and non-academic staff, and all the members of the Student Welfare Society and attendees who have participated actively in the sessions. Your enthusiasm and passion for scientific research and innovations are truly inspiring. Last but not least, I would like to express my deepest appreciations to the organizing committee led by Professor Nimal Punyasiri and also students for their exceptional dedications and hard work throughout the entire journey leading up to this event. Your tireless effort and countless hours for planning, coordinations, and execution have resulted in a seamless and remarkable experience for all participants. Thank you once again, and I wish all the continued success in your scientific endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to tea and refreshments, which will be served just outside. And we will meet once again in this hall as well as the adjoining hall for the parallel sessions, which will commence at 10:45 a.m. Thank you.